Hey guys, how's it going? It is Travis Sports with the Forest Hill Film Lab, and today we are talking about Nikon's new mirrorless digital. I'm just kidding. Today we are talking about 4x5 photography, large format cameras. We're going to be talking about real film, real sheets of images. I shot about 20 sheets of film this weekend when I went camping, all handheld, and I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about shooting 4x5, what goes into shooting 4x5, and some of the things that you might want to know before getting started doing it yourself. I've been shooting 4x5 for about 5 or 6 years now, but just recently got really serious about it and started shooting, hundreds of sheets and started figuring out this format. And so I kind of want to share with you guys my experiences, some of the mistakes I've made, and just kind of talk to you guys a little bit about what you need to know to shoot 4x5 on your own. So we're going to get started. I'm going to talk to you guys about the differences between these two cameras, and you guys could decide for yourselves what kind of 4x5 would be right for you, and all that good stuff. So let's get started. So what I've got here is I got two different 4x5 field cameras. Now these cameras look very similar, but there's quite a few differences between the two of them. So I kind of just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about each camera and what you could expect from them, and also what they're capable of. So this is my first 4x5 camera that was really given to me that I started shooting with. This is a Linhof Technica. It was given to me by Richard Conrad, who is the guy that I talked about in one of my more recent videos, who he was one of Dorothea Lange's assistants, and he owned this camera back when he knew Dorothea, and he gifted it to me because he said he wanted to see what I would do with it. And so up until that point, I didn't really care for 4x5 that much. I wasn't really interested in the long, tedious process of shooting 4x5, the tripod, the holders, all that stuff. I was really turned off by it, but once I was given this camera, I was kind of forced into shooting it, and I started to fall in love with the format. So this is a standard view camera, but it has a lot of special adjustments that you can make with it. It's basically just a lens with a shutter on it, bellows, and ground glass in the back. So actually, I think I can... Oh, I can just open this so you guys can see. There's the ground glass. So basically, what I'm going to explain to you guys is the procedure that you have to go through in order to shoot a photograph with your 4x5. The process. The process is the most important part of all of this, because when you're shooting 4x5, if you do all these things in the wrong order, it can result in a ruined image, a exposed negative before you actually set your exposure or something like that. So I kind of want to show you guys the right way from the start, and then you can always remember that. So when you're focusing the 4x5, when you want to compose your image, what you have to do is you have to open this lens up so the image is actually projected onto the ground glass. And now this lens here has a switch that opens the lens. So you cock the lens and you just press this switch right here like that. And in order to see your image as bright as possible, you're going to want to open your aperture all the way. So here I am, I'm opening my aperture all the way. I can see the camera right now. I'm going to focus on you guys. Cool, the camera is sharp, okay? So let's just pretend we're in an outside setting and I'm going to be shooting Sunny 16, okay? Right now my lens is not set up for that. It is open, wide open. So the first thing I have to do, I'm ready to take a picture of you guys there at home. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is close the lens. You always want to remember to close the lens first. Now you never have to worry about exposing your sheet on accident. Then you're going to want to stop your aperture down to the desired aperture, f16. We are already on 400, say I'm shooting 400 speed film, and my shutter's already cocked. So now, on the tripod, we're ready to take a picture. We're going to take our film holder, and I'm going to explain this to you guys in just a moment, but you'll notice that my dark slides have the white on the outside, and this means that they're unshot. When you're loading your film, you want to make sure that the white is on the outside. That means that this is an unshot holder. So you're going to load your holder in there. Of course, we'd be on a tripod. And remove the slide. And now we're ready to take the image because the lens is closed, the slide is out, so the film is ready to be exposed. We would release the shutter, flip our slide to be the dark side of the slide outward, remove the holder, flip the holder, and we're ready to shoot another frame. So now for our next frame, we would have to cock the shutter, open the lens, open the aperture, compose our shot, reinsert the holder, so on and so forth. So because of this, this is a slower process. In order to take portraits with this camera, they're going to be more intimate. The subject is going to have time waiting for you to set up. It's not going to be a candid shot. It's not going to be a spontaneous portrait. And that's one of the downsides of the tripod and the 4x5 system. One of the benefits, however, is that this camera has tons of different movements it can make to change the perspective of the image. You could tilt it this way. You could rise and drop the lens, which actually changes the horizon line. You could shift the lens, which actually changes the perspective left to right. So when you are on the tripod and you just want the little teeniest bit of difference, you could fine-tune your image exactly how you want it. And the other thing is that this camera in particular has a film plane that could be adjusted. And when you're using a tripod and you're shooting to ground glass, what you see is what you get. So you could use these adjustments to your advantage, and using the ground glass to focus will make it possible. The downside, like I said, is the time it takes. The time it takes to set up the shot, to open the lens, to do the focus, all that stuff takes a lot of time. And because of the time it takes, it changes the kinds of images you get. Moving on, we're going to move on to the Speed Graphic. And now the Speed Graphic is a special camera because it has two shutters in it. It's got the lens shutter, and then it's also got a built-in focal plane shutter. So just to explain that to you guys, this is the focal plane. It's basically a curtain with a bunch of different holes in it. Oh, here we go. I got this set up the right way. So there's open, and then as we advance it, there's one opening. The opening gets smaller and smaller, and the spring tension gets higher, enabling us to shoot a thousandth of a second shutter speed. So I wanted to read something to you guys before I talk to you a little bit more about this camera. This is the Navy Training Guide for Photographers from 1952, and this is a handbook you would have gotten if you were a Navy enlisted photographer. And this basically tells you how to do everything. And in here, it talks about the Speed Graphic extensively. Now, even when I search on the internet and try to find diagrams of the Speed Graphic or repair guides, things like that, a lot of times this book is what's referenced on the internet. People scan this book and this is what we got. So, the Speed Graphic. Most versatile of all cameras available to the naval photographer is the Speed Graphic. This camera grew to meet the needs of the news cameraman who had to get the picture under any and all conditions. You Navy photographers are in the same boat. You see that? That's a pretty good pun. You must get the picture regardless of adverse conditions. Understand the Speed Graphic thoroughly. You will use it often, particularly when your assignments include action and news coverage. Now, that's the Navy guide even explaining to you that this camera is made for action, it's made for news coverage, because it has that focal plane shutter, but also, what I have to do is open this lens here, but also because it has a coupled rangefinder. So what this allows me to do is, I can actually focus on my subject without ever using the ground glass. I could focus on the distance away that they are, and my lens is constantly open, and that curtain provides a block for the light. And when I have my film holder in there, I can shoot at any moment, put the slide in, replace the holder, and just crank the shutter, and I'm ready to go again. I don't have to open the aperture, open the lens, focus the camera, close the lens, close the aperture, load the holder, pull the slide, shoot the camera. I don't have to do all that. I get to skip a bunch of steps because I'm skipping that ground glass portion. Now, it was hard for me to start shooting handheld. I didn't really trust it at first, but what I did was I made sure that my rangefinder was calibrated. I focused on a light bulb in my kitchen. I opened up the ground glass and I slid the lens until it was perfectly in focus on that light bulb. And I made sure that these two things were calibrated. And then what I did was I set the infinity lock to be exactly where that is, and now it's always calibrated. So, you do it at infinity, you do it at 10 feet, you do it at 5 feet, and you make sure that it's in order the whole way through. And so this camera is a much quicker process to shoot. I'm actually going to show you guys right now. So if I was going to go outside, I just did it yesterday. I was sitting in my camper and I wanted to take a picture. So I saw what was going on outside. So the first thing I did was I grabbed my camera and I said, okay, f/16, 2/50th of a second. So now we're at 2/50th of a second. My camera's ready to go. All I have to do is I load my holder and I run out of the camper with the dark slide already out, because what we're doing is we're shooting on the fly. So we want to make sure our film is ready to go at all times. So I've got my aperture already set. I've got my shutter speed already set. And all I have to do is focus. So I'm going to focus on my film dryer. Flip the holder. Hold the holder. See how quick that goes? Quick, quick, quick. And now, the thing about this rangefinder is that I only have so much information given to me when I'm focusing with it that I don't waste my time fine-tuning it. I get what I get. So when those images line up, I release the shutter. I don't wait. I have nothing to wait for. My settings are already set. I already know that the camera's ready to do its job. All I have to do is set the focus and be quick with the holders. Actually, I want to show you guys, last year I brought this camera to a BMX event and I shot nothing but 4x5 out there, all with the speed graphic, all using it in this form, like in this fashion. Hand holding, focusing with the rangefinder. I'm just going to kind of throw them in here while I'm talking, and you guys can see how sharp this stuff is. The beauty of it is when you're shooting in daytime, you get to have those smaller apertures, and that increases your depth of field, which ultimately increases your room for error. You know, you've got so much room for error when you're at f/16 that nailing focus is not very difficult at all. So now that I've talked to you guys about the differences of these two amazing cameras, you can see that one's, you know, made for the tripod, and this one over here could actually be shot a little more freely handheld. This camera does have a built-in rangefinder, so it could also be shot that way. But Graflex just kind of integrated the button in the body, and it's a little more built for it. Anyways, another thing I wanted to show you guys. Now we've talked about the cameras. What I want to talk to you guys about is 4x5, the actual process of 4x5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to load film into a holder, and I'm going to talk to you guys about some of the things that you got to look out for and some of the things to get you started. Before I get started with all the details of loading the film holder and all that stuff, I wanted to show you guys some of my photos that I shot camping this weekend, just so you could kind of see what the 4x5 is capable of in a normal, you know, plinking around situation. You know, when I go out and shoot the 4x5, I bring it with me and I shoot it like it's a 35mm, because that's the only way you're going to get those kinds of unique candid moments, is when you're shooting it as if it's a small camera. You know, you start taking too long composing and waiting for the shot, and you lose that moment. So I just kind of wanted to show you guys some of my photos from camping this weekend, so you could kind of see what the 4x5 is capable of if you're quick enough to use it, and you know, if you use it in a situation like, you know, just capturing a family camping trip. You know, it's some of the most amazing photographs I've taken have been with my 4x5. So check out some of these photos. I just kind of wanted to share with you guys, since I did shoot those photos and got excited to make this video because of it. So take a look, and then we'll get into the details of loading the film holders and all that good stuff. So for me, one of the scariest things about shooting 4x5 was handling the film. How do I load the holder? How do I develop it? How do I do all that stuff? I don't have the means to do that stuff. And you know, a lot of us don't when we're just starting out, and that's kind of why 4x5 is that next step. Once you've already got into medium format, and you've really explored around medium format, and you feel like you're ready for that next step, 4x5 really is that next step. Mostly because in order to do 4x5, in order to scan it and digitize it, you need a V700 or a V800 scanner, a professional scanner with a full bed. So that's one of the things, if you don't have that, you're going to have a hard time digitizing your 4x5 negatives. Additionally, developing it is kind of difficult. I used to use an old Yankee tank, and it was a freaking nightmare. Like, you would never want to use that. It was like 12 sheets would go in a box, you'd shake them around. It was horrible development. And it made me not want to shoot 4x5 because I was working so hard on my images, and I wasn't getting good results because of poor development. So some of the options are like the Mod 55 is it's a spiral adapter. It's like a reel that actually goes inside of a Patterson tank. And that's an excellent way to do 4x5. You could fill that thing with chemicals and it'd be so nice. I would recommend that. There's also another reel. I don't know what it's called. It's a white reel that has pockets to put the film into. And this guy just started making them with a 3D printer. But those things look awesome. I've heard nothing but great things about them. And so once you get that tank and you get the ability to develop and the ability to scan, then you're ready to go. I used to think of 4x5 as this super magical format that was so special that, I would only shoot 6 sheets a year. And when I was shooting those 6 sheets a year, I was learning absolutely nothing at all. I learned nothing. I gained no knowledge. I gained no insight. I only shot 6 sheets a year, and every single time I was frantic about the process trying to figure it out. So once I finally got this camera, this is what I recommend anyone to do. Get yourself 10 holders, a box of film, and when you go to load film in one holder, load up 10 of them. Have them already on deck, ready to go, so when you feel like shooting 4x5, it's just there, like a roll of film that you load in your camera. That's why we shoot the film instead of the 4x5. Load up some holders, have it ready to go. My other suggestion is when you shoot a holder, shoot both sides of the holder. Whether it be the same image, maybe a bracketed exposure, or a different image of the same subject, but always shoot both sides. When you carry around a holder that only has one side shot, you're wasting space in your bag. And when you pull that holder out and you only have one sheet, it might not be enough. So kind of always tell people shoot both sides of it. It'll get you closer to that development, and it'll also give you a little more practice using the camera in that very moment. If that is the only time you take your camera out that day, at least you'll use it twice instead of once. You'll do the procedure right close to the first time and start to learn it. I didn't start learning 4x5 until I started shooting Polaroid film on it. I was shooting pack film with it, and I started going through dozens and dozens and dozens of exposures. So then by the time I was shooting film, sheet film, I was so quick. And I started to learn the camera, and the camera started to be an extension of me, and I know the camera so well now that I could shoot a 4x5 faster than most people could focus their 35mm, because it doesn't take a whole lot of thinking once you know it. Anyways, those are some of my tips. Load up a pile of holders, shoot both sides, and here we're going to talk about loading it now. How do we load these damn things? So in your box of sheets, you're going to have it's going to be a 3-part box, and then there's going to be an envelope inside. And then inside that envelope, there's going to be 2 pieces of cardboard, and inside those 2 pieces of cardboard is going to be a stack of film. And when you open up that box, you're going to feel the top of the film, and you're going to feel ridges. And those ridges are your best friend. So what I do is you find the ridges and you put them in the top right corner of your index, like this. Here we go. Just like that, top right corner. And that is your emulsion side. If you're looking at the top right corner, the emulsion side is facing you. The protective side is facing you guys. So you go like this, and I'm going to close my eyes now. So when I find that top part, I like to cradle the film like this, open up the gate, and slide it into the tracks. There we go. Perfect. There we go. And now look I made a mistake here. What I want to do is always, when I'm going to load a holder, take the slides out and put them white side out before you even put them in your box. White side out, and I leave the slides halfway out. This is how they go into my dark bag, just like this. I open the gate, here we'll do it again. I find my film, there's my ridges, open the gate up. It seems daunting at first, but it's just a matter of relaxing. Oh, I skipped it, that's okay. Just relax, goes right in, smooth as ever. Perfect. And now these holders have locking dark slides, and most of you guys probably won't be used to that. So I'm going to show you. This is a regular holder. So what you want to do is, when you put them all together and they come out of your dark bag, your dark box, these are slide locks here. You want to make sure those are locked, because when you go to grab these out of your bag, sometimes if those slide locks aren't activated, you go to grab it out of your bag and you just expose your film. So all these things are here for a reason. And even these slides are textured, so you could feel them inside the bag if you needed to flip it. See, this side's textured, the white side's textured, and the dark side is not textured. So these are all just different feeling things for dark bag use and for photographers. What else do I need to tell you guys? I think that's about it. I kind of wanted to just sum up 4x5 with you guys, kind of tell you what to expect when you're out there. Development is everything. I met an old Jewish man that saw me shooting 4x5, and he said, "Are you getting even developments?" And I said, "No." And that's when I learned. He said, "You have to get a Jobo. You have to rotary process your 4x5, because if you don't get good developments, it's not even worth taking the images." And these images are they have so much potential to be great that you have to make sure that you do the development right. I'm not going to talk too in depth about development because I use the Jobo, and a lot of you guys don't have that, so it might not be very helpful anyways. But like I said, get a Patterson tank, a Mod 54 adapter, go find an old Epson V700 scanner, and the rest is in your hands. You guys are ready to go. Go shoot some 4x5. Go pick up a Crown graphic or a Speed graphic with the focal plane. This is a Linhof Technica, also a great choice. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for the feedback on my workshop video. I am planning on putting a workshop together here soon, and hopefully you guys get excited about it. So thanks for the feedback. Go check it out if you haven't. And until next time, you guys, keep on shooting.